talk today to Tiwanda Griffin-Greer. Hi, Tiwanda. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
And would you rather me call you Tiwanda or T or Gigi or what?
Gigi is good.
Gigi is good.
Gigi now.
Okay. Yeah, she said everybody calls her by either T or Gigi, so I wanted to be sure which one she preferred. Everybody always asks me when I introduce myself as Elizabeth, they're always like, can we call you something else? And I'm like, I don't hear anything else. That's all I hear. I've been called Elizabeth my whole life.
I wouldn't ask to call somebody something else unless they volunteered it.
You would be surprised, I guess, because so many people shorten Elizabeth that I guess it's just kind of expected. But you would think if you introduce yourself as Elizabeth, people assume that you want to be called Elizabeth.
Right.
But yes, but my grandmother was adamant about it being Elizabeth, the whole thing. So I just don't hear anything but Elizabeth. So let me tell you a little bit about Gigi. She is a retired U.S. Air Force, a little bit less than a year. Woo-hoo. After 25 years of service. She froze again. You froze again.
You froze for a second, but I could still hear you.
Okay, well, we're just going to go with it, and then I'll edit it if I need to, because I'll have to edit this out anyway. So we're just going to go with it, and we'll see what we have to do. So cut back to, and she has 25 years of service with the U.S. Air Force, and she has been on quite a journey. She's originally from Raleigh, North Carolina, and she lives, she was last stationed at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, which is where we're stationed. So we're actually neighbors, although this is the first time we've met.
Yes.
Is over Zoom. We've talked on the phone, but this is the first time we've met. But we're all going to get together and we're going to have a big podcast kickoff party. So we're gonna all get together. So I'm excited about that. And so she has 2 boys. One is carrying in her footsteps in the Air Force, carrying on her Air Force career in her stead since she's put in her 25 years. And I know all about that because we've put in 30 and I'm done. I've been done. He hasn't retired. He has 3 more years because he's reserves and DOD, so he has to go to 60. But I retired about 3 or 4 years ago, so I'm done. When we moved to North Carolina, I told him that's it. I'm retired. So I haven't been to any functions or anything. I'm like, I'm not putting on that stuff and fancy dresses and stuff anymore. Done.
Finished.
Yes. Yes, exactly. 17 moves in 30 years. I think I've done my part. And I'm finished.
That's a lot. That's a lot of sacrifice.
It is. And, you know, I've left 3 kids scattered throughout the U.S. So I live 14 hours from any one of my 3 children, 14-hour drive. Yeah, nobody's close. So that really stinks. So anyway, Gigi is also working on becoming a life coach and working towards being an aspiring author, a motivational speaker, and as an advocate for PTSD victims, and is working on organizing a nonprofit. So she's a busy lady, and she's on our panel. So that even adds more to her list.
So, I would like to be busier. So I can't wait for it to all come together so that I can be a little more busy.
Yes. And so you were just telling me how busy I am. And, you know, it's, you know, I've been working at this business and stuff for about 2.5 years now. So it starts slow and you build that momentum, and then you can be busier than you want to be or as busy as you want to be.
Well, my goal is to rise to your level. That's where I'm trying to get.
As well, I don't know. You might want to go a little bit higher than that. Because we were talking about that before. You might want to take a step up from where I'm at right now. So what, I know you wanted to share with us about your military sorority, which I didn't even know there was a thing. So tell us about that.
So I am a member of Kappa Epsilon Psi Military Sorority Incorporated.
You notice I
Um,
had you say that instead of me trying to say that. I would have messed it up completely.
I still stumble over it. I have to think about it as I say it. It is a pretty new concept. Kappa Epsilon Psi has been in the sorority business longer. This is our 8th year, so we just celebrated our 8th year anniversary. We were established in 2011. Um, it has grown from 9 initial charter members to over 3,000 at the moment.
Wow.
Yes, we are located all over the world. We have sororities, we have chapters and clusters pretty much in every city. We have, in Korea and Guam, everywhere you can think of where there are military members. Doesn't have to be specific, to a certain base, but when they're military members, we try to get our sorority information out there. What we are is we are all prior military, prior veterans. Some are active duty. I joined while I was still active. It is a sorority that comes together to, let's see, our motto is to honor our past female service members, unite our present female service members, and mentor the future leadership of our armed forces. So it's Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, Reserve, National Guard. It doesn't matter, as long as you've served 2 years honorably, and you've been discharged, whether it be medical discharge or just separated or retired, it doesn't matter. We have members of all races, creeds, cultures. It's just a multi-organizational unit of women who have all served, and we all have similar backgrounds. We all have similar, we know it's a sisterhood. That's the best I can explain it, as a sisterhood. And we're here to serve the community. That's what we do. We just got finished doing the Purple Heart banquet. That was, I think it was last weekend.
Yes.
We're doing book drives. We're doing back to schools. We do, parades. We have blood drives. We go over to the veterans home down in Kinston, and we sit with them and play bingo. And I mean, we just try to get our community service out there, because we know that the community is watching. And we know, as previous service women, our colors are pink and purple, which is probably why my office is pink and purple.
Which is fine.
But it's, like I said, it's a sisterhood throughout the nation, and it's probably one of the best organizations I've joined throughout my career. I know that I've been part of the best organization in the world, the United States Air Force.
I agree, but we're a little biased.
Right. Look, no bias there. Well, when I was retiring, I said I didn't want to lose that. I didn't want to lose that family. I didn't want to lose that camaraderie. And it
that
just
that sisterhood, yeah.
Absolutely. And I had a cousin who was part of the sorority, and she had been talking to me about it. And I said, I really just want to join something that's going to help me continue to be able to work in the community, continue to be able to give back, continue to be able to do what I've been doing, but on outside of the uniform level.
Right.
It's amazing. And right now our Goldsboro chapter has 19 active members. We've got 2 deployed, 2 are deploying soon. All women of different backgrounds. Some have authored books, and some are doctors, and some are, it's amazing. That's amazing. Great. The kind of women that come together and get out there and show our face, and the community loves to see us there.
Yes.
There is more than one sorority. There are different ones that have come into existence since ours have been. They have different creeds, different mottos, different colors. But Kappa Epsilon Psi Military Sorority Incorporated has been in business the longest, and we're we're so proud of it. We try to get out there and just make sure that everybody knows. So if you get out there, you see a lot of pinks and purples, and then we're all in a group. That's us.
It's like the red hat and the purple hat ladies. It's like you're the pink and
Exactly.
purple ladies, which is so different from the camo you're normally wearing.
And you know what's funny? We get out of that camo and we can't wait, and then you see us with pink and purple and gray camo on. It's great.
It just attract back to that camo. I don't know. So it must be something about the military. I have my pink camo sunglasses that I wear. So yeah, it's something about that camo.
It's the decision. Well, one, you can wear pink and purple camo. That's different. And
Yeah.
two, it's because I want to, not because it's my daily uniform that I have to put on. But you know, we love to get out there and represent our colors and represent the sorority. And it's something that I think that every prior or even active service member should look into. It's just one of the most amazing organizations I've been a part of.
Hopefully through the podcast we'll get the word out, because like I said, I have never heard of it until I met you, and so hopefully through the podcast it's one way we can get the word out to some of our other female service members. And I know we have nieces that are serving in the military now, and I definitely want to tell them about it and have them connect with a group where they are, because I think that's wonderful. And it's so hard, I would imagine, being a female in the military, because it's such a male dominated world.
It is.
I would think so.
It is, but it isn't. And I say that because as a female and in the position that I was in as a first sergeant, and in the position I was in as a recruiter, as an instructor, as a first sergeant, I've been in leadership positions, and I've not had any issues with encountering that anti-female or you know, friction between female and male co-workers and counterparts. I personally have never, and I know it's a really big thing with military members these days, but I personally have never encountered a problem with being a female in a leadership position. And I don't know if it's because of the position, or if it was because of the service branch, or if it was just because of my strong personality that people were just not going to question, or if they did, they didn't let me know about it.
Right. That's going to cross you.
Right. I'm sure there were a few who didn't agree with what I stood for, or, you know, had opposing thoughts to how I led. But it was never a question. I've never had to go up against someone. I've never been in a situation where I felt like, well, it's because I'm a female, or it's because I'm a woman, or, you know, except for my most recent incident with with the active shooter incident. It's the very first time in my entire career that I've gotten questioned as far as had I been a male, would the situation have turned out differently. As far as, you know, being a first sergeant.
That surprises me after you've been through a situation like that. Now let's fill in our audience a little bit about that situation, if you don't mind. Tell them a little bit about it. And I think once you tell them, it'll jog their memory. They'll remember this incident, because I certainly did.
Right. Back in 2016, April 8th, at exactly 08:38 in the morning, I encountered we were involved in an active shooter incident at Lackland Air Force Base. I was the first sergeant that was involved in that incident, whereas my commander was shot and killed in my office by a disgruntled tech training student. At the time, it still is the most harrowing experience I've ever encountered. The fact that I, by the grace of God, escaped and was able to get away, leaving my commander deceased, along with the shooter himself, were both deceased. And that's what affected me for the last 3 years. I've had to live with that for the last 3 years, which is why I get into the PTSD, why I get into the invisible wounds, why I want to be a motivational speaker. There were a lot of I don't know if you listened to the previous podcast that I did with that, but there were a lot of questions as far as what happened that day, what really went on, what really went down. I'm the only one that can tell you about it. I'm the only one that lived to be able to tell you the story. Otherwise, there are a lot of assumptions, a lot of speculation that has gone on because no one has really heard my part of the story until a week ago when I put out that podcast, and most people didn't even remember that wow, I remember that happened, but we always wondered what happened to you. You just disappeared. We never heard from you.
Right.
For a long time, I wasn't allowed to speak about it because there were a lot of investigations and some legal things going on. And so I finally was able to get to the point where I could speak about it. And it was very cathartic for me because for the last 3 years, I've been holding it in.
Yes.
The people who knew about it were the people who were close knit to the situation, and of course my family. But the public never knew. The public never understood what really happened, except for what they read in the papers or what they read in articles. And those articles, you can't really go off of what they say because they weren't there.
Right.
They can go off speculation and say, well, we think this happened and we think that happened, but I'm here to say, ask me. Ask me. I can tell you exactly what happened. So that's what I decided to do at that juncture. The psychologist out at Los Angeles Air Force Base does a Blue Grit podcast, and she talks to leaders or things that have happened to people, and it's all about resiliency and how this is what happened. How did you make it through?
Right.
How hard was it for you? What have you learned? What do you want people to know? What would you advise the next person who may go through this? What kind of advice would you give them? And I hesitated for a long time as to whether I would do the podcast in itself, because I wasn't sure of how it was going to go, how it was going to be received.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure that my biggest concern, my biggest intent was to make sure that the truth was out there, that people knew what was going on, and that to lead us back to how we started this, I had a lot of people question my actions that day. Because my commanders, told me to run. He said, go. So I did, but that left me with a lot of questions. Should I not have? Was it a bad thing? I'm reading comments about myself, of course, on Facebook and the newsletters. And
never read the comments. Never read the comments.
Hindsight is 2020, but I just had to know, and it was horrible. People were saying, if she were a male, this would have never happened. I know that the commander told her to leave, but that was one direct order she should have disobeyed, or she should have went down with him, and they should have fought together. And if she died along with him, then I got all of these things, and I even heard them say, well, they sure don't make first sergeants like they used to. And I read all these things about myself, and I said, well, that is the one and only time that I've actually had people question whether me being a female affected my judgment or affected my decision making. But when you hear the podcast and you realize the events that were happening at the time, many people come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter if you were male or female. You didn't have many choices here.
No. And it is drilled in your head from basic training. You do not disobey a direct order.
You don't. But it's also drilled in your head as a first sergeant that you protect your commander. we're there to make sure that our commanders are safe. We're there to make sure they don't go to jail. We make sure that they're making the right decisions. When we do administrative punishment, we stand between the commander and that person.
Yes.
Because if something were to happen, we're ready to jump in there.
Right.
So I was, with both of those points, I was torn. Well, are they right? Should I have done this? Should I have done that? Did I not do my job? Was I a coward? Did I run away? And many people will tell you, you know what, Gigi, I look at the story and I look and see what happened, and I hear about the thought processes that you went through, and I honestly can't say that I would have done anything different. There
Right.
was nothing else you would have done. So with that said, I don't believe my gender played a role in how things turned out. I think it could have been anyone. I think it could have been anyone, male or female, with what happened. As far as leading, as far as decision making, as far as working with the commander, my authority is derived from the commander. So usually when I made a decision or when I made a speech or I said something, the authority comes from the commander. So many people didn't question that. At the end, toward my retirement time, being a mom, being a woman had nothing to do with my decision to retire. It was a family decision.
Right.
It wasn't my son's got brain cancer, so I'm being emotional and I have to, it was I'm trying to take care of my unit. I'm trying to take care of my family, and somebody's going to not get 100%. And
Right.
that's not fair to either one. I think that's a decision any leader would make.
Absolutely. Something's got to give. You get to a point sometimes that something's got to give, and you've got to make a choice.
And I had to make a choice, and I was no longer giving 100% to my unit because I was trying to take care of my family and my own mental health. And I was not giving 100% to my family and myself, who needed that attention at the time, because we're going through, a very critical medical time in our lives. And I said, you know what, if I can't give 100 to both, something's got to give. And family's going to be there forever.
Right.
The family's, you're hoping the family's going to be there forever. And the career, I had a great career at the time. I had a great career. Everything was perfect. Everything was good. And I couldn't have asked for more, except for that last promotion that I was looking for. But I said, you know what, even if I got to give that up and it's not a promotion I'm ever going to see, it's what I need versus what I want. So
right.
I needed to take that back seat. I needed to take a knee. And it wasn't a woman decision. It wasn't a mom decision. It was a person. It was a human decision.
Right. Exactly. And that's what, I tell people too. I'm like, a family first, always. And that is always we have operated. It's always family first. And and every job I've ever taken, at the interview, I sit down with the boss and I'm like, if my kids need me, if my husband needs me, I'm out. This because job is number 2.
They replace you immediately. You're replaced. You are replaced. You have a new, when, God forbid, our commander passed, we had an assumption of command ceremony, weeks later. And a new commander came in and, they changed the name of the squadron. I mean, life went on.
Right.
For everybody else. And when they had a replacement coming in to replace me already, because I was already leaving, and you will be replaced by your job. You will not be replaced by your family.
No, you cannot be replaced by your family. And the legacy that you leave with your family is the legacy that lasts. Exactly. And that's like my children never got the opportunity to know my grandmother. My oldest was 15 months old when she passed away. But because she was such an influence on my life, I shared that influence with them, and they feel like they know her, and they've passed that on now to the next generation.
Yes. Yes.
And, and that does not going to happen with a job or anything else. You might last, your memory might last a little while, but it's not going to pass from generation to generation.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Yes. And that's what's important. That is
And
what's
that's what's
important.
important. That's what's important. And I felt like, you know, I had fulfilled the legacy that I needed to fulfill within my career. And I felt I was at a very good juncture that I could say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and put this down and start the second half and just
Yes.
take care of it, take care of what I needed to take care of.
And at 25 years, I mean, that is, I mean, most people, you know, if they last past that first 4 or 6,
Right.
then they are done at 20. You know, most people are done at 20.
Yes.
A lot of people don't go past 20. So to go to 25 is an extremely honorable thing. And to stay and continue to persevere after that experience is amazing.
It was hard. It was very hard. But, and the crazy thing is the day that happened, I said, I'm done.
Yes.
But like I said, that was emotion speaking. When I came back to my right mind, I said, I'm not done. I'm not done. This is, it's a fluke.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, I've done this job already 5 years with 0 instances. You know, here's one, but at the same time, I still had people to take care of. I still had a mission to fulfill. I still had a squadron to take care of, and I was still a leader. So there was no time for me to buckle under the pressure and say, I quit, I'm done.
Right.
And I'm glad I didn't, because even though it was hard to get back into the saddle, I still did another 3 years as a first sergeant, and it was tough. But in those 3 years since I've been here at Seymour, I can specifically come up with instances where I've literally said to myself, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm still here. This is why God placed me where he placed me. This is the purpose I'm supposed to be fulfilling. Because I didn't know at the time, but there were people that I was going to meet that were going to come to my office that was going to need what I could give them due to that experience.
Right.
And I'm okay with it. I'm perfectly fine with it, because I'm still doing that. So I said, you know what? I have a purpose. And
I see you're a lot like me too. You're like, I'm not going to let this beat me. I'm not going to let this take me out and beat me. I can tell that just from our talks. You're like, because I was the same way. I'm like, you know, this is not going to beat me. It might take me down for a little while, but it's not going to keep me down. It
will not be what defined me. It will not be what defined my career. It will not be what ended my career, but it will be what created my purpose.
Right.
So
exactly.
when I question, what am I going to do after retirement? How am I going to be effective after retirement? When I felt that I was so impactful and effective, you know, while I served in the uniform, I know this gave me the tools that I need to help other people go through the same things and the same feelings and the same rationale. And I get to say to them, I was where you are 3 years ago. You would never know it if you met me right now. But trust me, I've been there, I've done that. I can tell you exactly how you feel about certain things because I've been there. And they look at me and they say, wow, I never would have guessed that you've gone through that. And I say, I know. Yeah. This is where you can be. Right. You know, in 3 years, you just have to get through it, and it's not easy.
No, it's not, and it's a day-to-day, step-by-step, and that's what that I was diagnosed with PTSD from coming from such a traumatic childhood, and walking through that, and I wrote about that in my book, and writing about it was so amazing because I was able to get it all out there, and then when I read it back, I was like, wow, I didn't even know I felt that way. I didn't know I thought that way. It was, it almost is just like it. I tell people, it was like God just poured it out of me onto the paper. And then it was like, wow, okay. So now I can see this. And it was years of therapy and going through counseling and things to get past a lot of those things. And, and it takes a lot of work. And you're like me now, you're going to take that and use it to write, to be an author, to be a speaker, to help other people.
Right.
And that is, and I think that anything we go through in life, and, Lord knows some of us have been through more than others, but, but whatever, I feel like whatever we've gone through, and it doesn't matter if it's a small thing or a big thing, it's meant to be used to help somebody else, because there's somebody else coming along that's going to go through something that's going to need what you have. You have that experience. You've walked through it. I can tell somebody, yes, you can get off of the medications, the pain medications, everything, because I did. You can. When we have these people going, no, I'm addicted, or I'm a dependent, or I'm dependent on it, or whatever. You can. You just have to make up your mind, make a plan, and work that plan. And get help.